Alright, folks, I'm not going to be reading any articles today. I'm going to show you a 10 to 11 minute video and we're going to discuss it. So let's go ahead and roll the footage.
Your actions have been reviewed by Justice Department, Capitol Police, Metropolitan Police,
and the United States Capitol Police.
the United States Capitol Police. Have you reviewed it? Have you continued to question your actions that day?
I knew that day I did my job, and I followed my training, and I spent countless years and preparing for such a moment. You ultimately hope that moment never occurs, but you prepare as best you can. And I know I prepared myself to do the job that was required of me. I know that day I saved countless lives. I know members of Congress as well as my fellow officers and staff were in jeopardy and in serious danger. And that's my job. I'm a dedicated law enforcement officer. I enjoy what I do. I love the people that I work with, and that's my training, and I follow my training.
What made you pull the trigger?
Last resort, I tried to wait as long as I could. I hoped and prayed no one tried to enter through those doors, but their failure to comply required me to take the appropriate action to save the lives of members of Congress and myself and my fellow officers.
Did you know who you shot?
I had no clue. I didn't even know it was a female until hours way later, sometime later on that night, before I even found out that it was a female. And, you know, because the call of shots fired had went out, it was later I, found out that the subject did not have a weapon, but there was no way to know that at that time. And I could not fully see her hands or what was in the backpack or what the intentions of. But they had shown violence leading up to that point.
And I have to ask you, based on your training, in that case, does it matter that the person was armed or not?
According to law, it does not. And I would let my lawyer speak on that, or the United States Capitol Police General Counsel further elaborate on that. I know based on my training and my policy, what I did was appropriate.
Let me ask you this. After you fired, did the threat appear to cease?
It did. No one else attempted to enter into that hall.
After the shooting, I assume your attention is also thinking about these members of Congress.
I immediately reverted back to trying to get the members of Congress out of the area and to a safe location.
We're given some time then after the shooting to be able to do that.
Not much time. I immediately, again, I wasn't the one that stayed with the subject. Again, at that point in time, my responsibility is the safety of the members of Congress. And I immediately went to try to provide a safe route for an evacuation for the members of Congress and advising them which way to go and how to proceed. We had a few members that are, I don't want to say disabled or have, limitations as far as being able to run or move fast. And some of those individuals were directly in the lobby with me at the time of the incident.
As you likely know, there have been some who have elevated Ashli Babbitt to the status of a martyr. I'm curious how you react to that.
I have no reaction to that. I know on that day, there was a lot of people injured, and several people died. And my heart goes out to everyone involved on that day that got injured or passed away.
What should we make of the fact that there were other officers in other potentially life-threatening situations who didn't use their service weapons that day?
I'm sure it was a terrifying situation, and I can only control my reaction, my training, my level of expertise. I cannot speak why they would not, or why they would have or should have. That would be upon them to speak for themselves.
Former President Trump has talked about you and this incident. He says she was murdered. What does it feel like to hear that from a former president?
Well, it's disheartening, but the only other thing I like to say to that is I spent countless hours, days, months doing threat analysis, doing evaluations, attending briefings, walkthroughs, escorts, coordinating with Secret Service that protects the president. There's pictures of me that have circulated that my wife was receiving during joint sessions and State of the Unions or when he was present, and I'm right there behind him. And I've escorted him on numerous occasions when he's visited the Capitol. And if he was in the room or anywhere and I'm responsible for him, I was prepared to do the same thing for him and his family.
Would you have his back today if you were so assigned?
I sure would, because it's my job. And he's a leader of the United States, and he deserves the same protection as the members of Congress, the current president, the Speaker of the House, you as a staffer, if you was in there, or a reporter. My job is to provide the safety and security for all of you.
A member of Congress described you as lying in wait. The attorney for the Babbitt family says that you ambushed her. What is it like to hear those accusations, and how do you respond?
Again, those things are disheartening, but without having full information of what I was experiencing, what I had heard on the radio, the accounts leading up to, the incident, I can understand why they would say that, but I have to say again, I did my training to the best of my ability. The information that was provided to me, I tried to protect members and keep them out of harm's way as best I could. When they announce shots fired, it's appropriate to take a tactical defensive stance and posture to protect myself. If I'm standing directly in front of the doorway, I could have been shot myself, possibly.
We discussed this at the beginning of the interview, but your name has been withheld through official channels, and that's unusual in cases where a police officer is involved in a high-profile shooting. Did you get special treatment?
Of course not. No way. The threats, the vile, angry people viciously attacking me without full knowledge of what my duties and responsibilities were for that day. There's a thing called rules of engagement. My rules of engagement never changed because I was in the presence of members of Congress the entire time. There are other officers who may not have fired because they were surrounded, they were enclosed, they had a place to retreat. I had none of those advantages to me. I did not see any other thing play out, as everybody else did on TV. I could only rely on my radio and my training and the policies that I had in place.
Your life has been turned upside down.
Yes, it has.
You hoping to regain it?
In some form or fashion. I just know that this form of life is not appropriate. Not appropriate for somebody who risked his life, his livelihood, to save lives of people that make the laws and rules for this country. And you would hope that that's enough. That man did his job.
Capitol Police in their press release after exonerating you said your actions potentially saved members and staff from serious injury and possible death. What was it like to hear those words, to see those words?
Those words meant a lot because that's exactly what I did on that day. That was my mission. that was what I prepared for. And it's rewarding and refreshing to hear that.
What do you want us to know, particularly critics, but all of us? What do you want us to know about what it's like to take a human life?
It's always difficult. It's a decision nobody wants to be faced with in law enforcement. There's unfortunate circumstances that put you in that position, and you have to have the courage, the mental fortitude to follow through with what you've been trained and prepared for. And I think I did that to the best of my ability. I do my job for Republican, for Democrat, for white, for black, red, blue, green. I don't care about your affiliation. Half of the conversations that occur inside that chamber, I am not aware of, because I am performing my job and making sure that I provide the utmost protection at all times for the members.
Were you afraid that day?
I was very afraid. There's nothing wrong with being afraid. I've learned that.
Are you afraid now? Going forward?
I am afraid, because I know there's people that disagree with my actions on January the 6th. But I hope they understand I did my job. And there was imminent threats and danger to the members of Congress. And I just want the truth to be told. There's a lot of misrepresentations that either people wanted to say or people just don't understand. So I hope that they come away with something that I'm saying that allows them to get more insight into what I was dealing with and what I was going through that day.
And lastly, if Ashli Babbitt's family is watching this, is there anything you would say to them?
What I would like to say is to all the families from January the 6th that were injured or lost, that their family members receive injury or loss of life, as my heart goes out to them. I'm sorry for their loss and what they're dealing with. And I pray that they find peace and comfort.
Well, you heard that right. But of course, that's not the full interview. If you want to check it out, I'll leave the link in the description below and you can check it out for yourself if you want to listen to the whole thing. Towards the end, it did get emotional. I will say the least. You know, it got emotional at the end of the interview. So it's something that's worth checking out. But anyway, to Donald Trump and the rest of the Trumpers out there, what happened? Where is the whole back the blue, blue lives matter, huh? And to you, Donald Trump, what happened to what you were saying on Twitter about respect the men and women in blue? What happened to that? This man right here was clearly doing his job for the protection of himself as well as the other Congress people who were inside that Capitol against the terrorist groups, okay? Your people, man. Your people that you sent out there trying to cause an insurrection which didn't work. So, what's the difference between a black man on duty as a DC Capitol police officer doing his job versus an insurrectionist who the woman was white? What is the difference between that and white police officers gunning down unarmed black people? Huh? What's the difference? The difference is that white woman, Ashli Babbitt, along with many others who were out there, them people out there were committing an act of terrorism, which is breaking the law. I mean, isn't that what you always like to preach? If you comply, then the police won't shoot you, right? Black people always have to comply to the law and order, right? And what about your people? Shouldn't the laws work the same way for white people like it has with black folks? How come when it's a black person doing his job as a DCC police officer to defend those who are inside the Capitol building somehow a bad thing? And granted, if the roles were reversed, you'd be singing this man's praises all day long if he was white and the suspect was black. Now would you? Those people were not protesting. That was more than a protest. That was an insurrection. People were breaking windows, smearing feces on the wall, for what I heard, occupying in people's offices. You call that a protest? And for those of you who say it was peaceful, then you're just down to the core delusional. Okay? That was no protest. And it's funny how you Trumpers out there always like to paint Black Lives Matter as terrorists when you're pretty much committing the same thing that you're accusing them of doing. So you basically omitted what you've been preaching. It doesn't make sense. So somehow everybody is all up in arms because some white woman, an insurrectionist, was breaking the law and ended up getting put down for her efforts by somebody who was a DCC police officer, black, was doing his job. But yet it's okay when unarmed black people get mauled down, gunned down for no reason. What, just for jaywalking in the street? Oh, someone ran a red light or they were speeding? So what? I mean, what's the harm in just simply giving them a ticket and let them go on with their day? Hell, white people do it all the time on a daily basis. And nothing happens to them. But when a black person does some, oh, they become an immediate threat. Despite having no weapon, even if he complies, you're still a threat. Why? Because you're black. That's how these race soldiers roll. This doesn't come close to what George Floyd had to endure. Yeah, because I know some of you like to compare this to the death of George Floyd, when there is no comparison. There is no comparison. Because race soldiers, they kill black folks for sport. Not because they were in fear of their lives. Not because black people were, quote unquote, breaking the law. It's because they feel like it. This man right here, he did nothing wrong. He felt the need to do his job. And you clearly heard him say that he would have done it for anybody. Republican, Democrat, no matter the party affiliation. He would always be there to protect those on that premises, no matter the cost, because that is what he was trained to do. Same goes for you too, Donald Trump, because you heard him. He would have done the same thing for you as he had done for them that day. So yeah, I am going to back the blue on this one, Because you're right. It's all about law and order. Hashtag back the blue. Hashtag Blue Lives Matter. And also hashtag the truth matters. So don't get mad when your people show signs of an aggression with a killer instinct, and then the right police officer has to be the one to neutralize the threat if need be. So start treating them like you treat black people on a daily basis. Because now you know how it feels. What we have to endure on a daily basis for 400 years by you race soldiers. So yeah, with that being said, I'm going to end this recording. So leave me your comment. Let me know what you think about this in the comments below. Like, share, subscribe, and I'll catch you next time. Peace.